Come on, everyone sit down and listen to the greatest debate in all of history. We'll give you everything that you've been missing. Introducing Nothing Special.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nothing Specialty Podcast, where we dive into deep discussion and hard-hitting debate. My name is Chris, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben.
What's up, guys?
Once again, Ben, they can't hear you yet. They can't answer. But
I'm gonna keep pretending.
But I can answer. Yeah, we'll just keep pretending. But
I like to think the voices in my head can talk back.
Yeah. Do they contribute to this show a
lot? Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the topic.
Okay.
Well, they're not asking me to burn things.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, so
what's new with you this week?
Well, there was a thing that happened. So I was at the library, where I'm the security guard, and there's this group of people who were like printing out these flyers. If they were just printing them out, it wouldn't have been a problem. It would have been just fine. But they were doing a little more than just printing them out.
They doing drugs.
But no, so they were printing them out, but they were like leaving them places, and it was not entirely appropriate. So it says this is the flyer. Listen, pleasuring yourself with vape. Try masturbation instead. Masturbating alone or with a friend is a great, safe alternative to vaping. And then it links. It has a what'sinavape.com. And it has a little thing, the real cost. And I was just like, try masturbation instead?
I don't see the problem here.
What? And then the part that really gets me is the masturbating alone or with a friend.
You've never masturbated with a friend? Be honest.
So I mean, all things are better when there's company, I guess. But I just never imagined.
And this is how we became an X-rated podcast.
Yeah. So I mean, I had to like tell them, hey, this isn't appropriate to be leaving around. Like, make sure you collect all of them. And they were like, oh, we didn't print that, but they like left right away. So.
You were like, I'm not an idiot. Guys.
Yeah. But there was one hidden under a keyboard and a few between books on the shelves. Like they were trying to hide these, and like so that random people would grab a book and get a flyer. And it's like,
I'm now very curious if they actually were like going for a cause or if they're just trolling people.
Well, I mean, it links to a website, What's in a Vape. Like apparently they really believe that vaping is really bad.
All right, then my next thing is I think they're bad at spreading awareness. That, or I am unaware of the amount of people who vape, how much they must love their libraries. Like,
yeah,
like there might be a correlation there, but I just like off the top of my head, I don't really see it.
Well, I've never seen anyone try to vape in the library, so maybe they're just. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
Vapes are for cool people.
Yeah, and libraries.
Nerds go to libraries. Nerds.
But anyway, but yeah, vaping. It's been like a topic that's been discussed recently. So like there's something to it maybe, but I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it, I don't think.
So I've looked a bit into it because I actually, and to anyone who likes vaping, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say. Not like that I'm saying it, but sorry that you feel bad for it. So first things first, I don't understand all these kids who walk around, and even young adults. They have this vape pen, and they like puff out these puffs of smoke in public. And like, I hate to break it to them, but I'm pretty sure you'd be look less gay with a dick in your mouth. like smoking's bad for you, don't get me wrong, but at least you look cool. Like, you can look cool smoking a cigarette. And to anyone who disagrees with me, plenty of action heroes, and hell, there's even some anime where like the cool guy is smoking and it looks cool.
Yeah, and then in the
so-
English dub, when they move it over, like when it's in his mouth, like they take off the smoke end, so it's just a stick, and then when he takes it out, they replace the smoky end with a lollipop, like a sucker.
Yeah.
I don't know what anime did that, but I know I saw it once where a guy was smoking, but when he took it out, it was like he was sucking on a lollipop instead in the dub, because they were like, "Oh, for children, we don't want to show a cigarette."
It's in One Piece, and it's because
it is
in America. Yeah, and it's because in America there's laws about where you can show smoking, and like I believe like it. So One Piece aired on whatever Funimation was, and we all know what Funimation does to animes, but your TV channel has to have a certain rating to then show smoking. So like the TV shows, like I don't know, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm not sure if it is rated for it, but like I'm just using an example, like maybe Bones or Criminal Minds, they can show smoking. I know Law and Order has shown smoking, so like let's use Law and Order. Like it has a TV rating and it's on a channel where it can show it. It's clearly for adults. Yeah. But like Funimation and anime with like a main character who's made of rubber, I can see why they're like, yeah, in America we can't let this happen.
Yeah.
So at least on TV, because the different rules for like internet streaming sites versus like what's on cable TV, obviously.
Yeah. But well, that's why I've been reading the manga instead. I've actually gotten a little ways in. I'm on volume 4.
You know that Hulu has it, right? Like the pure version, and they
Hulu
even have
has One Piece.
Yes. Like over 700 episodes at this point, I believe.
Yeah, I thought I tried to look for it and couldn't find it.
It's not dubbed. I don't think it's definitely not dubbed all the way. But I know One Piece was on there. I'm pretty sure it still is. That's how I watch it. Crunchyroll is the other way to do it.
Yeah.
And Crunchyroll also has plenty of dub stuff. But either way, like there's ways to watch the pure stuff. Like Funimation streams are like practically non-existent on any major streaming service, because like even it doesn't take a genius to tell like changing the core of what a show was is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But anyways, also I do know vaping is now being linked to more and more health conditions. So like it increases your chance of getting lung infections. In some cases, it has been linked to death, but it's things like pneumonia or respiratory infections where people die because of that.
Yeah, pneumonia was the one I heard.
It can ruin your lung tissue, and again, we're slowly finding these causes, but like as of right now, it looks like it's going to be just like, again, we haven't had a generation smoking long enough to really see like 100% compare it to like cigarettes, because we had a lot of generations to compare for cigarettes.
Yeah.
That being said, we do know for a fact it is causing problems, and it's only been around for a little while now by comparison to other things that we have a lot more information on. So the fact that we're finding this much bad stuff and it's only been around for this long, like it's definitely not good for you. Like I've heard people say, well, it's better for you than cigarettes. Well, two things. I have people who I work with who can't go an hour without taking a hit from their e-cig.
Yeah.
Like I work in a restaurant. I've had to send people home because they're too busy trying to go back and hit their e-cig. And that's like, you can't do that. We're in a restaurant.
Yeah.
So that being said, like I have people who will try to sneak out for smoke breaks too. So like just from an addiction standpoint, people are just as addicted to their e-cigs. And if it's better for you than a cigarette, technically that's fine, but it's still not good for you. It's like, it shouldn't be your alternative. Like, well, it's either this or cigarettes. Like that really shouldn't be your standard.
Yeah.
But they definitely attribute to health problems. And for me personally, like I know like my fiance, for instance, she tried it for a little while and she didn't understand why I hated it. I just didn't really like it. But one of the things I found out is I got a punctured lung when I was younger, and it made me cough incessantly if I was like when I would breathe in that stuff.
Yeah.
So
even
like,
secondhand, or when you sucked it from
secondhand, just people. So when people blew out just the puffs of smoke, like just breathing that moist air with stuff that wasn't just oxygen, like started making me cough. And I go on like 2-mile runs. So it's not like I can't breathe properly.
Yeah. That's just
so
not
like
good for you.
Yeah, so if you already have an irritated lung somehow from something, it's going to cause problems.
Yeah.
Like it's not even my opinion at this point. Like that's a documented medical fact now. And like I think that's my problem with it is people think it's like, oh, you can do it indoors perfectly safe, and it's like it's actually illegal to do it indoors now. It's smoking e-cigs inside is illegal, just like smoking cigarettes is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why every restaurant now posts things that say no smoking smoking even e-cigs, and hospitals post those things.
Yeah.
And like,
and I think most of the damage came from when they were like, "Oh yeah, it's totally healthy. There's no problems whatsoever." So then people just breathed it. Like that's what they breathed, the 24/7. So they're like, "Oh well, it's perfectly healthy. Then I might as well just do it all the time." You know?
I mean, one of the things we're really bad about here in America, and I get that like people in there's some people who like in the United Kingdom who complain that like the European Union is like has too many like rules and laws they enforce and too many regulations, but we're like the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how bad their regulation, like how oppressive their regulations are, because I don't live there. But that being said, here in America lately, it's like we have this problem where we just start releasing things, and we find out later how bad they are.
Yeah.
But we've opened that box. Like putting everything back in the box is nearly impossible. Like I've heard, like, are they called Kinder eggs?
I think so. Yeah.
Are supposed to be illegal in the U.S. or they were at one point.
Yeah.
Because I still see them.
Well, I think it was because there was a big toy inside and kids were choking on it or something.
Yeah.
Or someone was afraid that someone would choke on it.
So, yeah, I think people actually choked. But, like, the bottom line is, like, no one even stopped to, like, no one's, like, that just made it through.
Yeah.
No problem. And then people choked, and it was like, well, no, duh. A 5-year-old cannot be expected to properly pull out the toy from a solid chocolate egg. I wouldn't be surprised if half of them didn't even know the toy was in there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know toys were in those things until I heard that it was getting banned because people were choking on it.
So either maybe they packaged the toy differently, or it's no longer inside the egg. I don't know, but somehow they're back on shelves, I guess.
Yeah, but like we're just really like we open bad boxes and we're really bad about like shoving them back in.
Yeah,
and I think part of it too is just our and don't get me wrong, I get the I like something so don't take it away from me attitude. That's neat and everything, but we really do have that kind of attitude here in the U.S.
Yeah,
that's our argument for a lot of the stuff we like is don't take this away. What's your reason? Well, I like it. I mean, it's not a bad reason in all cases. It's not a bad reason, but it also doesn't make it a good reason.
Yeah, when it doesn't outweigh harming others.
Yeah, well, the e-cig companies actually got in trouble. They got like some really hefty fines because like the way they were and it's been parodied on YouTube, I know, by like College Humor and stuff, because like they were clearly advertising with the intention of going after teenagers and like. A lot of people, or even just kids, and like they were like, no, like there's totally people who want bubblegum grape flavored e-cigs, and it's like, yes, and those people are 14 to 16.
Yeah. So then, but should it be illegal to do that? Like, I don't know if making it illegal would be the right move. You know?
Oh, I don't think we should make it illegal. I think the real problem is like, how can I put this? We've just, like, as a society, I feel like we've just kind of accepted it and been like, oh, kids do this.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there isn't enough like enforcement. Like, I know I have to ask kids to stop smoking them indoors, but like half the managers I work with smoke e-cigs. So they refuse to do that because they're like, well, I just don't feel comfortable because I know I'd be doing it. And it's like, but that doesn't matter. Like, it's just this acceptance of like, it's not a bad thing. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And also, like, to be honest, like the like e-cig shops at like the mall and stuff are probably what's to blame for all the kids getting a hold of the e-cigs. Because I know for a fact I knew some people who were under 18 who just walked into the mall and bought them.
So, like, is there actual legislation for you need to be over 18 to buy one?
You're supposed to be. I think you have to be over 18 to buy one now. But I know for a time it was like to get the juice with nicotine in it, you had to be over 18.
I can definitely see that with the nicotine.
but no, but like but they were still getting a hold of it with nicotine in it. Like there was no like. Do you really think the guy like? I don't know. You lived where I lived, so remember the mall we used to go to, and then imagine walking in there. You know those little hipster dudes sitting with their laptop at the vape station, just like literally just listening or watching YouTube until someone finally came to buy. You really think they were like? I'm sorry, like I don't. I've watched people walk up to those people. I've never seen one person be like, "I need to see some ID."
Yeah,
I think that's what it is.
As illegal as selling cigarettes to a minor or even alcohol to a minor. Like that, they should really get down on that.
Like I said, as a society, we've just like, I think we've like, a lot of people have just gone, oh, it's a thing. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? And I think that's the attitude we have towards it. And I think that's the ultimate factor. We don't treat them like because they like realistically, like I said, they look kind of stupid. They're little smoke toys to me.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it is visually, it doesn't give such a visceral response as seeing a 14-year-old with a cigarette versus seeing a 14-year-old poking some flavored water.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what it is. It just doesn't give us that visceral, no, this is not okay response. We see it and go, oh, he's a douche. Oh, well.
Yeah.
I mean,
there was
personally,
some
personally, I'm all for more teenagers being out of my way. But eventually I'm probably going to have kids, so I'd really rather them not like die of lung disease early on in life.
Yeah. There was talk of legislation though, like outright banning the sale of like the flavored ones in some states, if not federally. But I didn't really look too much into that.
I mean, it would be well within a state's right to ban stuff like that. There's no like we've banned food stuffs and like drugs and stuff, so it'd be well within both the federal and the state's right. It would just be a matter of will they actually go through with it.
Yeah,
but I also don't believe in prohibition because, well, actually, the prohibition of e-cigs actually might be successful because it's like not an easily like you can't like making that in your basement probably wouldn't be too easy, and because the parts break down, it wouldn't be easy to maintain. Like. It's easy for prohibition. Like prohibition doesn't affect things that you can grow in your basement, but you can't grow a new vape pen in your basement.
Well, I don't
that
think
actually requires some sort of production.
I don't think they could outlaw the paraphernalia. Just like you could go to a tobacco shop and buy a bong, just not the weed for it. You have to go elsewhere for the weed. Like it would be that the packs are the thing that goes underground. The packs are the thing that you could ban, and so then. It would be fine.
The question is how hard are those packs to make? I guess would be the question then.
Yeah,
and the answer is probably not that. It actually might not be that hard.
But I think where this came from was that like it caused some severe medical problems for kids that vaped them, but they didn't get them from an official source. They got them from a bootlegged, cheaper vendor,
or someone just sold them to like some kid.
Like the problem was it was on the black market already. And it wasn't like a legit sale. So now making them illegal, that means that 100% of the people that are smoking the flavored vapes are getting them from that same black market that poisoned a couple people, you know? So it's like that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I guess technically it is a black market, but I don't think it's as sustainable of a black market. I guess one of my examples would be like here where I live in Arizona, you can get like an AR-15 for $600. I know because I bought one. But on the flip side, you could, if you went to a place like Australia, I'm going to use it as an example, and you tried to buy one of those on the black market, you're going to be spending 10 to 30 grand.
Because it's a lot harder to get it there.
And it's because you can't, that's not something you can just produce in your basement. And if you can, then you have like the technical skills to not need to do that. Like if you were capable of that, you could be doing a lot more. So like people with those sort of skills and equipment are actually like doing stuff with that, like skills and equipment. So the bottom line though is, if like you take like the reason that doesn't work on like alcohol or weed is because I can make alcohol in my bathtub and I can grow weed in my closet. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, you can't do that with vape pens.
Again, I don't know, I think it's just like maybe
I don't know
you
how
can
the
make
juice works.
You might be able to make the juice in your kitchen. You know?
No,
It might be that
that's what I'm
easy.
saying. They would have to ban the pens,
Yeah.
like the vapes themselves. And I see no reason why they couldn't technically make that illegal. I know there's a state, like I know there's places like I'm gonna use another example. There's places where like switchblades are just illegal, but the way a lot of places have gotten around that, companies wise, is they just have assisted opening knives. Essentially, there's no longer a switch that opens it. Also, a switchblade is defined as a knife that opens from the side upwards. So Smith & Wesson actually came out with one that opens, like pops out from the top of the knife. So it has a switch, but it pops out from the top. So it doesn't meet the technical definition. But I think we're at a point here in America where we could easily say anything that turns this fluid into vapor so you can breathe it in is illegal.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like that'd be really hard to enforce, though. And it's like, if it's not...
I mean, once the sale stops, you wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Because, like, eventually, again, I know people with vape supplies, and they do break down. Eventually, the supply chain would break down.
I think, though, more than making it illegal, I think if we wanted to really stop the vaping from happening, it would just have to be, the media would just have to focus on every single medical case that comes from them and just scare the living crap out of everyone. Like, that's really the only way that I see that being accomplished, and to have people stop vaping.
Yeah, but we can't scare people from not doing a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing.
Well, yeah.
So I don't even know.
I don't know.
Like, this might be one of those things where we opened a box and there's almost no going back. Personally, I personally, my way of belief in how we should solve this is convince everyone that you are just a douche for having that in your mouth. Just, oh, look, a douche.
Yeah,
it's
make it
like
uncool.
The people who drive Harleys like really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Make it as like that used to be like, ooh, this is so cool. Nowadays we look at those people and go, faggot.
Jeez. Yeah.
By the way, I'm not anti-homosexual.
Think of that now.
I should throw that out there. I'm saying it because it's a reference to a TV show, South Park, where they change they actually get the legal, like not the legal definition, like they get Webster to change the definition of the word faggot to not have anything to do with homosexuals. It's all about people who ride their motorcycles and make them too loud. Like, so I'm referencing something. I'm not just being like, I'm not homophobic. That's not.
Well, when I say the N-word, I'm referencing a work of art that.
Hey, there's a South Park episode on the N-word, so
I'm just referencing South Park when I say the N-word. I'm not actually like, I don't hate black people. Come on.
Look,
Anyway.
I think everyone who knows me know I'm about as gay as you can possibly be. So
While still being straight.
That's my word. Oh no, I'm completely no, totally. I'm confused for they call me metrosexual at work. I have more jackets than my fiance in my closet, and I like having a walk-in closet.
Well, I would love one, but
If I might be gay, I might be bi. I just haven't tried dick yet, so But I have everything else going for it.
Yeah.
Like one of my coworkers just got engaged, and she was like, "You need to come with me to help me pick out a wedding dress because you're like my gay best friend." And I wasn't upset. It was totally a compliment. I loved it.
Okay.
I'm gonna drink wine and help a girl pick out a wedding dress.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have fun with that.
So, anyways, we should probably get on to our. Sorry,
before we move on, there's something else that just happened that I think we at least need to touch on, because if we ignored it, that would be kind of awkward.
Are you sure? Because everyone else is talking about it.
A few days ago, the House voted to impeach Donald Trump.
Yep. They will not officially move it onto the Senate till after, I believe it's January. That's because they are going on recess. Like, I think it was either yesterday or the day before was like the last day before the recess, if I understand correctly.
Mm-hmm. And of course,
So
all
they
the
are-
Republicans are like, oh, they're delaying things. They're just not sending it to the Senate because they know what the Senate's going to
No,
do
it's
with
because
it.
we're all going home for Christmas. Even you guys. We're all going home for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I saw this coming from a mile away. Like, of course, yeah, they've got the majority in the House. I didn't see how. Like, I thought some Democrats would vote against it and some Republicans would vote for it, but no, it was just straight down the middle.
It wasn't even straight down the middle. It was to get like the House. So there's Democrats outnumber the Republicans in the House right now, but not by like a ridiculous margin.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like it's not to the point where they could just do whatever the hell they wanted with no pushback. Because even Democrats and Republicans on some issues are obviously going to be on one side or the other. Like, because a lot of them come from different backgrounds and they have different constituents. I think it was 230 to like, it was either 180 or 190. That's a pretty big gap. Like for the House, that's a bigger gap than you think. There had to have been a group of Republicans. And actually, I know for a fact there was a group of Republicans who supported it.
Oh, okay. I do know, though, that there was one Democrat who voted present instead of voting, yes or no, simply because she objected to how fast it was moving forward and wanted more information, which I completely agree with.
I don't know if I agree with it, but I can respect that if she didn't feel like she had all the knowledge.
She voted for the impeachment inquiry.
Actually,
she voted positive for that, but then it now was too soon for her to say like, yes, we have enough to
Gotcha.
definitively say.
Do you remember what state she was from?
I don't remember her name either,
because I remember one of
but
the
she was the
big
only one that voted
question-
present, so you could just Google search who voted present.
Gotcha. Like, I'm not saying this is why, but I'm actually curious. So someone brought up that a lot of the Republicans who were voting actually come from swing states.
So they were, yeah.
So they're Republican, but their constituents are in the middle, and I'm not saying that just because you come from an area where your constituents lean a certain way, you do, but like your background is intertwined with theirs.
Yeah.
Regardless of, so like they're probably about in the middle too. So if she was in a swing state, that might have been why. That's actually very possible because because remember is it 2020 is the Senate elections?
Well,
I believe
2020 is the president's election.
There's an
22 maybe?
Yeah, well, yeah. Trying to remember. I know election season is coming up for the Senate. I don't know if it's 2020.
It's either on the 22, so like 2 years off of the president, or it's like every other year. Is it every 2 years? Because then that would be
2 years
21.
for the House. It's 2 years for the House.
Okay, so we just had a House, right? This year?
We literally just had the House.
So
Senate
Senate is, I don't think, is until 2022, is it?
Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020 United States Senate elections.
Oh, so they happen at the same time as the president.
They might
right?
not always coincide. Yeah, so here's the thing. They might not always coincide, but if both of them if a president and Senates both get elected on even numbers, eventually they would have to overlap occasionally. And it's 6 years. So exactly what
6
I just
years
saw.
is the Senate. Okay.
So eventually a president and a Senate election will overlap.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that's part of why a lot of senators are actually staying quiet right now, and some of them are actually staying pretty in the middle.
Yeah.
About the whole thing. Obviously, some of them are more outspoken than others. But I know a few from like really religious states have actually come out right and said like they're pro impeachment, which is actually really weird because evangelicals.
Yeah.
He's always been popular with evangelicals, so I don't think it's states like that. I think it's like more like Baptist and well, I know Utah.
Yeah.
but darn Mormons.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that there's any chance of it going through the Senate?
I don't think he'll be successfully impeached. I do think there's So right now I know for a fact. So actually, I should say I don't think he won't. What I should say is, like, I highly doubt it, but it also depends. Right now, there are going to be enough senators voting for witnesses and stuff. So you need a majority to get certain privileges during an impeachment inquiry, such as calling witnesses. And once it reaches the Senate, if once an impeachment inquiry reaches the Senate, if the Senate calls witnesses, even if they might be covered under executive privilege normally, it's unheard of for the Supreme Court to not enforce that. So
Yeah.
because at that point it has reached its highest level. So the Supreme Court would have to have a very weird reason, and our Supreme Court is very traditionalist right now, so I don't see them doing that.
Yeah.
Even the more left-leaning people on the Supreme Court are big on interpreting the law as written. They don't like to deviate too far from it. And a lot of them were around during other impeachments. So
yeah,
they would probably rule the same as they did in the past. And that's the advantage of not having to get reelected.
Yeah.
You can do what you think you can do, just what you think you're supposed to be doing, and not have to worry about what happens in the future. But anyways, depending on what we see from witnesses and in the Senate, I think that'll determine it. I do think there are people who will never break.
Oh yeah. Which is
a
poor decision to make. That's a bad place to be in where you just,
I've definitely been,
no matter what happens, I'm never changing my mind. Like that's not a good person.
So like I'm going to give an example, and it's actually going to be from the 2016 elections. I used to think Hillary was definitely a criminal during like the 2016 election campaigns, and I was kind of like, as I was trying to look at, but as like more information came out, I changed my mind. But what I could see happening, and this would change my mind, is if all of this impeachment stuff, it just looks really bad and it's definitely shady, but it's not technically illegal, or it's not technically bad enough to get you impeached. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, like
so like
it's a bad hill to die on that like Trump is hanging his hat on. That's like it was a perfect call, nothing happened. Like, well, no, there was a little shade there, but like, is that an impeachable shade, or is that just, hey, we slap on the wrist, be more careful in the future,
Oh, and something I would like to point out real quick, and this is just for our viewers, and this is important to remember, and I think a lot of people forget this, or they just don't know this. An impeachable offense is anything the House and Senate agree is an impeachable offense.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason for that is when you are impeached, you are not sent to prison. You are not put on death row. Could after being impeached, it lead to criminal offenses? Yes. That's why I believe it was Jimmy Carter was after Nixon, correct?
So
what the president after Nixon pardoned Nixon.
Oh.
And a lot of people criticized him for it. But the reason he did it was because he wanted the nation to move on, and he didn't want to go to a rally and yell, "Lock this person up." He legitimately wanted, he was like, the impeachment is over. The punishment has happened. We need to move on. Yeah. And that's actually something I would support. But because unless you like, like one of the jokes that Trump made himself was, I could shoot someone in front of Trump Tower and I wouldn't lose any of my base. If he shoots someone, sorry, I have to agree with it. Like, if he shot someone in cold blood, I should say. Now I kind of have to want you impeached and go to jail. But if it's something convoluted like currently, where it's like very complicated and hard to follow with constantly evolving facts, at that point, if he was removed from office, that to me is the punishment.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, and
so, but anyways,
that being said, though, I think that if we just say, though, that it's like, well, whatever the House and the Senate agrees is an impeachable offense, like, well, what if there is actually a supermajority of one side in the Senate and in the House? Like, can that party just completely just impeach to their heart's desire until they get someone they want? Like, with that power, they can just completely disregard the people's voting and in the general election and make their own president, basically.
So I should say technically they could, but here's the important thing to remember. Political power fluctuates constantly in the US. It's part of how our system is designed. And no one party has controlled that much power.
Yeah. It would be ridiculous to have 2/3 of the Senate be one party.
If that much of I don't think you could have a president who was not affiliated with both, like, if there was that much power in both the House and the Senate of one party, I don't think you could get, just because that many people got elected to that party, I don't think that an opposition member would become president.
Well, it would be like they become president, then 2 years later the Senate elections happen, and then suddenly there's a giant wave the other direction. That would be what would. But
2/3 big.
The case.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think that would. In fact, if you had that much of a majority, you wouldn't even need to impeach, because again, that means that much of the country agrees with that side. So they just need to wait another 2 years, and then they can pretty much put up whoever they want, and they're going to get it.
But because at that point, there's no way they're going to just wait.
I mean,
if they have the power.
Could. Well, I'm saying they could. I'm not saying they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, and I think this is so. Actually, something else to keep in mind too is impeachment is not a lighthearted thing. And like, for instance, Nancy Pelosi didn't even want to do it, not because she didn't think it was necessarily right. But one of her biggest fears, and she outright said this, was like, "What if we do this? If you do this wrong, all you do is empower the other side. You make them stronger.
Yeah,
because you've made them this unbeatable force, and perception matters when it comes to elections. Mm-hmm. So, I have to say, like, there definitely be people who would be afraid to pull that in case there was because." The sad thing is, by trying to like a corrupt impeachment or like an attempt at corrupt election could result in the opposite effect. They might lose future elections as a result. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I know in Mexico, because enough corruptness happened, they've been going through politicians like crazy. And you could say, oh, well, this one group controls the politicians. And that's been true. And yet they haven't stayed in power because people aren't stupid. They realize when they're being taken for a ride, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I feel like I think the reason it has to be political, and the reason it has to be whatever they say it is because at the end of the day, the president of the United States represents the United States. And also it's very hard to investigate the president. You're investigating the highest legal office in the land. Mm-hmm. You cannot get the same level of investigative power over that as you could a normal citizen. And also, they represent us. If they are doing a poor job representing us, if enough of the countries believes they need to be removed, they should be allowed to do that. Because at that point, it's one guy not pushing for the things that the majority of the country has decided for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's could it be used for evil? Yes. But the opposite is also true. To have an impossible standard of evidence or an impossible requirement would also lead to bad things. Because then you would have someone who's untouchable. Because, again, the difficulty to investigate them would make them untouchable.
Yeah. I can definitely see that it has to be a political process. It can't be a legal process because he's the head of the executive branch, which executes the laws. So, it can't double over and punch itself in the face like that. So it has to be a political process, but people should try their hardest to make it a bipartisan process rather than a partisan process. Because
I agree.
If it's just one side that just doesn't like what the president's doing, then the bar for impeachment gets lower and lower. If it's you have to convince people on the same side as the president that the president has done something wrong, then that bar is a lot higher. So yeah, a 2/3 majority in the Senate was a very good idea because, yeah, like you said, the hypothetical of having a giant wave that takes over 2/3 of the Senate is almost impossible. It's ridiculous to think about it. And so you're going to have to convince people that are in the same party as the president that he's done something wrong, so wrong that he needs to leave. And to do that, that's going to be a lot harder. So it's not going to, it would be a lot harder to abuse that too.
It also has never been successfully done. That's like an important thing to point out. No president has been removed from office through impeachment.
Yeah,
it's never been successful.
Someone like, I don't remember which one it was, but they,
Nixon resigned.
Nixon resigned for it.
Clinton finished his term, and I'm forgetting the other guy. Was it Johnson? It was an older president. It was 1800s president.
Mm-hmm.
It got to the Senate, and then was like almost like immediately turned down. Like it made it to the Senate, and that was about it. So, like, the difficulty of making it happen should not be understated.
Clinton was turned back at the Senate too, right?
If I believe so, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So
because they definitely didn't give up. It just wasn't. They didn't get the 2/3 after everything was said and done. Essentially, the question came. So there's a lot more evidence now that there might have been sexual harassment, but involved in. He might have been involved in. Again, it's been a long time, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
That being said, at the time, it was a lot of Republicans trying to convince other people that immoral conduct, such as cheating on your wife, should be impeachable.
Yeah. Which at this point, it's that's so common in our culture, unfortunately, that there's not even a contest. Like, we wouldn't impeach him for that. In fact, we'll elect him for that because Trump has cheated on both of his previous wives before divorcing them to go to the new one.
His wife while on campaign.
Yeah. It's like
no, like, do I think that should be an impeachable offense personally? No. However, I do have to stand there and like shake my head at the people who, we have a lot of old senators. I was actually talking with someone about that today. There are senators who voted no on the Civil Rights Act, still serving. One of them died like 5 to 8 years ago, and a lot of people were like practically praising it, and a lot of people were like, you should be respectful. And part of me was like, like, am I gonna dance on his grave? No. I don't feel like I have to like a guy like that. I also, but at the same time, like, he kept getting elected, God knows how. But like, we have a lot of people who have voted on a lot of weird ways. And like, I look at this and I'm like, this is why we need term limits.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact some of the senators currently saying, like, we will always support our president, voted to impeach Clinton because he cheated on his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that and I'm like,
I think for Clinton also,
I feel like you've been here a while.
The big thing was perjury, not that he cheated. Like, that's what they were spreading as oh, he's such an awful person. But like, that was the charge, really. The biggest one that was really, damning was the.
But if you look at the conversations at the time, the big thing they brought up was that he was a cheater.
Really? Okay.
Like, both in the Senate and on the. It's actually really interesting because there's a kid who's like with his dad. They look exactly the same, and that's a news feed. And he says, they're all chanting impeach, 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 and the kid says, it's because of lies. And the dad just shuts him down and says, no, it's about sex. Like, the kid actually had a nuanced point of view, and he was like, well, I mean, it's just sex. But like, the dad was just like, no, we have to impeach him because he cheated on his wife.
Yeah, so maybe that's why they didn't really succeed. They focused on the wrong thing.
I think that could actually very well be it. That's actually a fair point. Anyways, we should probably get onto our silly topic.
Yeah, that was a big opening. We're talking about I felt like it would be we would be remiss if we didn't even mention it.
When we see the outcome, I feel like would be we should bring it up as a serious topic.
Yeah,
but I feel like we should have to wait on the outcome. I know it's gonna suck. It's gonna be a few months, but
yeah,
like I feel like that's important. because I personally am at the point where I actually want to see more information. Right now, it's a bunch of people hashing out the same information.
Yeah.
I want to see new information. I am pro going to the Senate because I would like to see witnesses who are firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would like to see.
Okay.
I want to. I don't feel like I want to see what the people who might have been involved have to say. I don't think that's gonna change up a lot of people's minds. I'm not sure if what they'll say will be different, but I do feel like that is important.
Yeah.
Because I hate hearing only one side of an argument, because then I feel like I'm only getting one bit of information. And right now I'm hearing one. Actually, I can't say I'm hearing one side, but I'm definitely hearing. I'm not hearing the people who I want to hear defend themselves.
Yeah.
I like hearing explanations. It's probably the intellectual in me.
Yeah. Anyways, what's a silly topic?
Silly topic of the day. Superpowers. If you had to have one, what would it be and why? We can crank out multiples after we tell each other why the one we picked was wrong. Rules. You can only have one. So, for example, you can't be Superman where you can do everything.
Yeah.
You get, like, if you want super strength, you get super strength. But you don't get super durability or super speed. You can have super speed, but you can't have super durability. Or you can have super regeneration, but you don't get to grow bone claws or metal ones. That's not how science works. Also, we have to follow the known physics of our universe. So, so for example, if you were to run at the speed of light, you would burn up. Or if you were to lift a car, or I mean, arguably, you'd probably get obliterated in space too. All it takes is one particle hitting you at the speed of light. I get the feeling that's going to be rather uncomfortable. That's if you can feel how uncomfortable that actually is. Anyways, but or in the case of, like, if you're super strong, if you were actually to lift a car in real life and you were to hold it on the tip of your finger or the tip of your hand, that much weight on you're talking about like a ton or two on a focal point, it would cause buckling. It would not just chill there on your hand.
Yeah.
And also feel free to bring up the downsides of maybe having those things. Like, if you're super strong, all your friends are going to ask you to move. Help you move all the time. No, not even your friends, just people.
Yeah.
That will be your thing. Can you help us move, Jim? Thanks, Jim.
Well, I mean, you buy a truck and that already happens. So, yeah, of course it would happen if you had super strength.
Yeah.
No, hey, I just got a new couch. Then. Can you help me bring it in? Like, you got it.
Yeah. But yeah, so, yeah, that's our thing for so I'll let you start out with one.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of what you brought up was like super versions of attributes we already have. Like, what about adding a new attribute? Like, being able to see through things and being able to see or being able to fly. Like, would you need to have wings, like an extra appendage, or?
I would say those are acceptable. I don't know if I should say you have to have wings because we didn't put a limit on that.
So you could just hover wherever your mind wants. But if you move through the air too fast, everything that happens with moving through the air happens.
Also, I would say if you fly, you can only fly as fast as you could run.
Oh, that's lame.
Because, well, you have to. you still only have enough strength to propel yourself as you would normally. You don't just get inherent extra strength. I mean, I would say even if you're levitating.
What if it's like mind power, telekinesis levitating? Like you're just hovering and can fly around.
That's an interesting one. So we did say, well, I guess we can't really apply to the laws of our universe in some cases.
Yeah.
With those, other than so I would say this. Sure, telekinesis is allowed. Okay. But there's just like your brain, but you can have telekinesis, but your brain still has limits. It's a muscle.
Yeah.
So let's say you could lift it. You can lift as much with your mind as you would as a person of comparable muscle strength would be able to do.
Yeah.
So like Stephen Hawking would be a lot better at lifting stuff with his mind than Johnny Depp, I guess.
Yeah.
Nothing personal, like the guy, but I'm not sure if he's a genius, and I'm also comparing him to his movies.
Yeah.
So, specifically Pirates of the Caribbean.
But Sparrow would not be able to lift very much.
Yes, that's what I'm going for.
But okay. So I don't know. This probably wouldn't be allowed, but whenever I think of like a special power, like the first thing that I think of would be like, and this would be for me to have in my own life, I would just abuse it to all heck, would be whenever you're going to buy something, you reach in your pocket and pull out exact cash. So you don't have to stock it or anything. Your pocket just produces exact cash for whatever you want to buy.
So you just have unlimited money.
Yeah.
So you want to be Batman.
Magic money.
you want to have the Bat credit card from the really bad old Batman movie. That's what you're saying, essentially.
Just swipe it and that's it. Like, oh, I just pulled $30,000 out of my pocket and bought a truck. You know, like that just. But you also use it for just every day, like, oh, going through the drive-through. Oh, that's a 782. All right, here's there we go, 782. You know, it'd just be very convenient.
I mean, as far as superpowers go, I'm not sure if we'll be able to top that one. Just because, like anything else you would try to use to produce money, such as like, I don't know, a power that would make it convenient to rob people. Like, it's just more convenient to always have money. But I think at that point, we're just saying your superpower is being rich. And I disagree that being super rich is a power. And the reason for that is you didn't have to like produce it through some means, or you weren't genetically born or modified to have it. You just earned your wealth.
Yeah, but that's too hard.
And at that point, like Bill Gates is a superhero. And like I just can't really see that. Like, it's nothing against the guy. But like I just don't see it. Like, I
mean, being able to get rich, like that I'd love that superpower. just having the charisma and the know-how.
I don't think that's a superpower. Also, I think a superpower inherently means it has to be like super abnormal or hard. Like, it's not something.
Well, it's like, called the 1% for a reason. Not too many people can get there.
I guess that's a fair point. Like, because you can buy anything at that point. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I personally wouldn't count it because it's a bit too.
It's more like magic.
Because how are you producing this? Yeah.
If I had a genie, that's what I would ask for.
It's not a bad idea. Aladdin definitely did a shittier job with his wishes. Not gonna lie.
Like, genie, make it so that for the rest of time, whenever I have to buy something from someone, I reach into my pocket and pull out exact cash.
You realize I could make you immortal, right? Yep, don't care.
Oh yeah, and then you're free. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got what I wanted. Arguably that was the best wish he made, because now he has an all-powerful genie as his friend, who's now going to spend the rest of his life just being like, "Hey, Aladdin, let me just help you out with everything."
It seemed like did you watch the live action Aladdin?
No.
Okay, I watched that recently.
But you can talk about it. It won't ruin it for me.
Don't ruin it? Okay. Well, I mean, the plot's basically the same.
No, I'm saying you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say about it is, if you haven't seen it and don't want like a spoiler for the ending, then just skip forward 30 seconds. So basically, at the end, when he wishes him free, Genie becomes human in the live action version. So like he loses all his genie powers. He's free, but he's a human now, and then he like goes and lives the rest of his life, you know, as a merchant or something, you know, telling a bunch of stories. So it's like, yeah, they changed a few things, but that was one of them. So, you know, I don't know. It may have just been a cartoony thing that Genie was able to keep his powers because they didn't want to, you know, right at the end of the film, you chop Robin Williams' legs off of him for like comedy wise. They wanted him to still be hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
and it would have affected making future things fun with him in it, I guess.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been in the sequels probably if he was just a normal human afterwards.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, I think for superpowers, getting back to it, I feel like flight would be like, so if I could say telekinesis, but you can also lift yourself, I think that's what I would go for.
Okay.
So the telekinesis
so, like,
with your mind,
yourself amount of weight. You could lift a yourself amount of weight, kind of thing.
Well, can you lift
you weigh
yourself
190.
so you can, hover around?
Yes, I was verifying that like that would be the powers. You can lift the equivalent amount of your body weight in weight.
Yeah, that would be fine. The smaller the object, the faster you could move it too. But and then you could also, you exercise your mind and expand it to be able to last longer and lift more. But lifting yourself would be part of that. So you could fly around slowly. You could hover. I think that's what I would go for, that kind of telekinesis.
We haven't even brought up other powers yet. What about super intelligence?
Well, I mean, you're super smart, so maybe that's what Bill Gates would have. Is the super intelligence, so he can get all the money.
He's not that smart.
But
no, he's not that smart.
Oh well. With those smarts, you
Nothing
could do
personal.
what Bill Gates did and get your own source of a bottomless pocket. But so maybe that's what I would want to go through. But
I was thinking. So I don't think you could be Rick from Rick and Morty, but something closer to that is what I was thinking. So like if we're using the physics of our universe, a lot of things he pulls off you could argue are not possible. Again, because we're saying known physics too.
Yeah.
So anything that's too sci-fi that he does wouldn't be possible, but like
I mean, traveling in
some of the other things,
dimensions, that's kind of the biggest one. And I don't think that would happen.
But he can make a robot over morning that just passes him butter. That's his purpose in life.
Yeah.
And
Create
really
a whole
cool
artificial intelligence.
Yeah, so like creating artificial intelligence is doable. The level of sentience is arguable, but not only is it doable, it's been done. So like he would you're so smart that anything that is definitely possible, you could make happen. That level of smart.
Yeah.
Like,
and that would be interesting, but without the means, I guess you could find the means. That's part of your intelligence,
Yeah, you're
not going to be limited by that.
Means.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I just can't imagine anything greater than just being able to fly. Like, not even fast, but just be really high and know you're in control.
I feel like is that just because you're lazy?
Well, I know I'm a little fat, but honest. I mean, come on.
Be honest. Do you just not want to use your legs anymore?
Well, I'd still walk around because I'd probably get a headache if I hovered myself too long. But like it would just be convenient to not have to be subject to gravity
I got one
anymore.
I think I got one better than that then.
What?
Teleportation.
Well,
like Nightcrawler level teleportation. Now, granted, you wouldn't be able to teleport anywhere where you couldn't because you don't have super senses where you can tell what's exactly inside a room. So you would have to have an idea of where you're going. Like not even just an idea, you would have to know. You don't want to teleport yourself inside a wall because that's probably going to kill you. Mm-hmm. But that being said, you also can't fly through a wall. So, I mean, your biggest limitation is just knowing where you're going. But if you could control it like you would a jump, like an actual jump,
it's easy to get it's a skill. You got to practice, but it would be easy to master. Yeah. You'd feel it, But I mean, if that's the case, what would you think of? So there's a book series by Orson Scott Card called The Mither Mages, and one of them is they're called a gate father. They make gates, which are they're not like portals where you could like, you know, see the boundaries of them, but they're like kind of, you know, if you know where they are, like they can be attached to objects. Like you would touch it and the gate would go around you. I don't know. It's harder to explain, but like it was interesting. But basically teleportation, but through the use of gates. So like, would that sound like a superpower, or would that sound like magic and not what we're talking about?
So you're using teleportation, but you have to use gates?
Yeah, but you could teleport other people in that way. So set up an entry point and an exit point, and then you move the gate over top of the person, they pop out the exit.
Interesting.
You move it over yourself, you pop out the exit. Or you just walk through it and you can do the same.
If we're allowing teleportation, I think that should be allowed.
Because that just hearing the stuff that he did with that in that book series, like that would be really fun.
It also has enough limitations where I don't feel like it's that, like, you're not adding anything on, like, because he actually has to take the time to make it and then all that other stuff.
Yeah,
and he has to place them in both points, right?
Well, I mean, you can do it remotely, but you need to know where it is. It's kind of like you can feel out there, but you don't have to physically.
I would say you could make the portals, but you would have to go to each point first. That's what I would say.
What I'm thinking is like you could do
just like if you're
the same
teleporting,
kind of
you can't
thing.
teleport farther than you can see.
Like, well, it wouldn't really be teleporting then. It would be setting like waypoints, kind of. Like you could set up a gate at your house, and then you'd have to travel somewhere, set up a gate there, and then you could go back and forth.
True.
Like that's what I'm hearing from you. But like, I would like to just be able to place them wherever you can see. You don't have to touch it, but you.
You have to see it, but you don't have to touch it.
Yeah.
That's also fair. I think that's fair. It has to be within your conceivable reach. You can't just say there's a portal to China, and I'm in France.
Well, I mean, I would think you can leave it somewhere. It's just like a stationary thing.
No, I'm saying like you can't do that. Like you can't be sitting in France and put a portal.
Yeah, you can't make it where you can't
China.
see. Yes.
So yeah.
So and there's also like you only have so many in the book, at least. You only have so many portals in you. And the character who it follows has like way more than anyone could like had in the past. Like he's like kind of fulfillment of prophecy or something like that. So it's like kind of some of the rules are bent for him, but like most gate fathers only have like 10 maybe or 20. Like they have a limited number of portals of gates they can make, and then you can link different ones at different times. So like without moving, you could make an in and an out up in the air over the top of each other, and then make the out is on top, the in is on bottom, and then create a third gate underneath someone that's linked to the first one. They fall through it. Now they're in midair falling, and then you switch the link so that it's those two that are linked again. So now they're just falling infinitely into one portal and out the other. So you're just in free fall forever. And like that's something you can do with these gates. Like I think that would be like there's so much you could do with that power that I would be happy with that.
So real quick, just because we're getting too caught up on cool powers, how about we talk about some that we like, the downsides of some of them too.
Yeah,
some of the common ones. Like let's take super regeneration. Being like Wolverine level. You're unaging and someone shoots you in the head and you're just like, that was uncomfortable. Please don't.
So you can even regenerate your brain matter.
Yeah, but memories are not connected to your brain matter. That's actual science. That's something they actually got right.
Huh.
You wouldn't be able to regenerate your memories if you, because those are the best way to describe memories is when a memory is made. It's a specific electric current in your brain. But once that's why Alzheimer's affects your memory. Like once you start severing those currents, it affects your memory. So like damaging the brain does damage your memory. That is a thing.
Okay.
Anyways, for instance, like after I had my brain surgery, I had a hard time remembering things, kind of thing, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I still do. But the shit, I already lost. Speaking of which, if you have super regeneration, you also have an infinite chance of your chance of getting stuck in a bad situation become infinite. So, for example, let's say you fall into a ravine and a boulder falls on top of you. You don't get extra powers. You don't have super strength. You don't have you don't have anything to like make it the boulder move. You regenerate constantly, so you can't even cut your own arm off to get away. You are stuck underneath that boulder until time or someone or something else comes along and saves you. But if you fall into like a giant, like let's say you decide to climb Mount Everest, you fall into one of those chasms. I don't think anyone's finding you.
Yeah.
So, but because you live forever, you have forever to get put in that situation.
Yeah, so it becomes imminent, like it's gonna happen eventually in your giant
like anything
life.
that can happen exactly, the idea of anything that can happen will happen becomes a lot more scary when you realize you have forever to make it happen.
Well, I mean, it's not so. Ultra regeneration isn't technically like immortality. Like if you are put in a situation where you are like constantly dying, like if you are drowning, say, regenerating your body wouldn't really help you. You're still not getting air.
Yes, that's true.
I think you'd still die.
That's true. So I guess that's true. Yeah, you would die if you got put in a situation where your body could no longer replicate itself. Like oxygen is necessary for cells to properly function. So deprive you of oxygen and now you will die.
And like if you freeze to death, you could still die from that, I think.
Because you're no longer like receiving nutrients. Technically freezing is your cells being like frozen and destroying themselves. So technically you could make the argument that you could regenerate from that. But because you're not getting any nutrients, it would be irrelevant because eventually you'd run out of material to make new cells out of.
Would that be tied to it then? Like you would have to, it would take your body's energy in order to heal it?
I would argue yes. You can't make something out of nothing.
What if you lose your digestive system? Could you regenerate that?
I mean, yes, as long as you have the materials inside your body to do so. You would have a super high metabolism in this situation, though.
Yeah. If you feel like you're getting fat, just cut your arm off a couple times.
Yeah. That or your body, if it's in a constant state of doing that regardless, might just be constantly reproducing cells anyway, so you'd just be hungry.
You could just constantly have cancer everywhere.
But yeah, well, I guess they would have to be controlled to a certain point or else it actually would be cancer. But but yeah, I would say yes, you need to still have the building blocks for creating things. You don't just get to create something out of nothing. But that still leaves the other problems of what if you get like imprisoned or something?
Yeah, you'd have to just wait it out.
Or like actually what happened to Wolverine where you become subject to experiments. As long as they know they need to keep giving you materials, they could experiment on you forever.
Yeah.
So long as they don't starve you. And that wouldn't be that hard for them to figure out. Because you're a valuable test subject, so they don't want you to die.
Yeah. I don't know how valuable tests on a constantly regenerating human would be, though. Because, like, if you give him a pill and it turned out to be poisonous, he wouldn't know. His body would just heal.
You would have... Their body would still feel the effects until it healed.
Okay, so they'd still get to... But the symptoms wouldn't last as long. Like, it wouldn't be a good test for symptoms. The length of symptoms. It wouldn't
be a good test for... Like, it wouldn't be a good test to see, will this strain of the flu murder millions of people?
But he would never die, though, so it would never be yes. But what if it was yes?
Dude, we've found ways to do sick experiments.
Nothing's going to be as severe for him.
True. Well, I mean, in theory, it would be just as severe. It's just they wouldn't die from it. The last symptom of what they're trying to go for is all they would be missing. But they could probably, through like legitimate like scientific leaps in logic, determine, oh, if he, wasn't practically immortal, he would have died from this.
Yeah, they
Like
could
his
probably
body
tell.
had a very like he used 300 calories. He used 30,000 calories to heal himself. This would
Yeah.
kill a normal person. You could actually wait. That's actually a good point. You could use calories used to heal yourself to determine how lethal something would actually be, since we're determining that would be necessary.
Yeah.
So he lost
That would
this
be
many
so that'd
calories.
be even more consistent than someone like Wolverine, because you could measure that.
Yeah. I think the reason I didn't think of that is I know like the old Wolverine stuff, some of the older X-Men stuff with healing factors, you actually did have to like there was a rule that they could drown.
Mm-hmm.
Because they still you have super regeneration, but you still need oxygen. I forgot about that because I know recently they've been just making I don't know what it is about superpowers nowadays, but they just feel the need to make them like even more superheroes.
Man, why?
Like our superhero needs to be better than this other superhero out there. Like it's kind of like how that Goku versus Superman argument lit the internet on fire.
Jeez.
And then ironically, and I legitimately feel like this was part of I legitimately feel like the Superman versus Goku argument is part of what made the series creator really send Goku to stupid levels of strong. And the reason I'm willing to say that is because was Dragon Ball Super a thing already? Kind of. That being said, it wasn't where it was at today.
Mm-hmm.
And where it's at today, I don't really watch it because to me, the Buu saga is the final and best saga. That being said, I know there's a scene where him and Goku and someone else are getting into a fist fight, and they have to be told to stop because they're currently destroying all the universes around them.
All of the universes around them?
So, like, they're in the other world, like the heaven area.
Oh.
And, like, they're destroying everything with their little fist fight. Like, and I'm pretty sure in that series, heaven and hell are a different dimension, which means their powers were, like, dimension altering, multi-dimension altering.
Jeez.
And that was definitely not a thing back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, yeah. They created a whole power just based around transferring to dimensions so they could keep their storyline going. But yeah.
That's impressive.
So
I'll give them that.
I feel like, but you get what I mean? Like, it's like everyone nowadays, like, my hero has to be stronger.
Yeah,
and
they have to
not,
make them ridiculous.
Because, like, if you're not the strongest, then no one will care. And I feel like that's a really dumb way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one reason I like One Piece so much. It started out ridiculous, so, like, you can't... Our main character's made of rubber and punched an actual sea cow.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get much more ridiculous from here. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
You can't make me think this is stupid. I watched the first episode and thought, I should keep watching this.
Mm-hmm. But, so what would you choose?
For my power?
Yeah.
I think it would have to be either teleportation or the like intellect one. Not even because I would use the intellect to become super rich or Batman or anything. I think it would be neat.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if I could prove with math that you're an idiot, that'd be neat.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to prove with math that you're an asshole.
Mm-hmm. I almost wish I could have heard that explanation, but we just got the tail end.
Yep. But yeah, I think that would be mine. That would just be amusing to me. Like, I would still live in a normal house.
Fun anymore, though?
I mean, I'm the kind of person where I like expanding my knowledge and just learning random shit. So for me, probably, like, there's enough out there. I feel like it would keep me busy. I mean, I only have so long to live.
Yeah, that's true.
And, I'm really unlucky, so eventually something stupid's probably going to kill me. So.
Okay. So most of mine, I think, like the three that I was like kind of
If I had the super intelligence, I could capture the rest of you, and then I could take your powers for my own.
Yeah, I'd be your slave to make gates for you.
Slave implies you'd be alive. It's hard to process living material.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd be that cruel.
Yeah.
But then again,
you can say if you have that kind of a vast intelligence, if you
would
like whether
would
or not
I now
you would
disassociate myself?
Yeah.
Would I develop psychosis as a result?
Yeah. Would you become a sociopath? Yeah. I don't know. All right. Well, that's where I'm gonna leave it. I think telekinesis would be my answer still, even though like teleportation is cool. Like I think moving other objects too is something that would be great.
I could agree with that.
And then intelligence for you then.
It's funny how cool certain powers get once you say you can only have one.
Yeah.
Superman isn't as fun anymore when you go, you can lift anything. But if you try to lift, if I hit you, you still get a broken nose.
Yeah.
Or, you can run super fast, but if you run too fast and like a bug hits you or like a pebble hits you, you know how you get cracks in your windshield on the highway?
Yeah.
But your forehead.
Uh-huh. Or heck, you could just get chafe really bad.
Yeah. Why is there so much lotion in your house? It's not what you think. I have really bad chafing problems. Sure you do, Bill. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Bullet Bill. That's a good name for a fast guy. Yeah.
That's what your mom said.
Well, anyways, let's move on to our serious topic, I think.
All right. So the serious topic for today, this one is going to be slightly interesting. It's about social programs. What is the line? What is good? What is bad? What shouldn't be handled by the government? What should? And rules for this one. Any program the government uses to help you or to somehow benefit you. So technically the military and the police force is a social program.
Yeah.
Like they would fall within the definition of a socialist program because they're to benefit the social network of your society. But so does like welfare, or it was Medicaid, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So where is the line? I think we can all agree like militaries are necessary, especially for big countries.
Yeah.
And law enforcement is definitely necessary. Citizens policing themselves, sadly, in this day and age is not efficient.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, you just want some asshole deciding your fate? Or would you rather have some organization with a bit more rules and structure?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I think along the lines with libertarians on this kind of stuff, except for when they start getting crazy and start saying that we don't need public roads or public parks or the police service or fire departments, that all of that can be private. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess maybe private companies could accomplish all of that stuff, but I certainly don't want to, if there's no regulations guiding those private companies, what's to stop them from being corrupt? And when you control the police of a town, what else can you get away with? It just seems like a recipe for disaster.
You control the law.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, so I want to keep that impartial and in the government's hands with the law and stuff, because that's kind of, they have a whole branch for that, a couple, in fact, judicial, deciding on laws, and then executive executing the laws. And heck, all three of them actually. Then the Congress making the laws. So, it's they got the law on. we should leave that to the government, and so police and that stuff. But like fire department too, I would like that to be well regulated and just set up by the state. That seems a lot more.
Because what happens when someone starts prioritizing money or profits over safety or helping people. Like, oh, it's too much money to go out to this suburb, so unless they pay us extra money, we won't do that.
And I mean, a lot of what they say is that, like, oh, the government can be just as corrupt as private organizations can. But then again, it's like, well, it is a democracy. Eventually, it comes back to the people and what they want. They elected the representative, or they elected the congressperson who chose the representative, or the like leader of the that part of the government. Like, it's removed, but it's not that removed. And if they start acting out, and the person who decides whether job is there or not doesn't do something about it, then they will be voted out. There are repercussions to government corruption, which we just saw in the impeachment. Yep. If that really is the corruption that they accuse, then well, we did it. If that was a private company that was doing all that kind of corrupt stuff, us as people would have no recourse to try and correct that.
If you are control the police or the fire department in an area, then when you can monopolize it. That's the real issue.
Yeah, there's not a competition for police. If you got two competing police organizations in the same city, there's going to be some turf war, maybe even between the policemen.
Now it's the equivalent of when gangs are the reason there's peace in their neighborhood.
It's mafia.
Am I going to it's not good, but it's what they have.
Yeah.
I know that's an actual thing in some parts of the country, where we don't where we've kind of just decided, fuck it. These places can be shitty. The way this peace is kept is gangs pretty much say, we don't want to shoot you and you don't want to shoot me, so let's keep the peace.
Yeah.
That's literally what it comes down to. I actually watched a documentary on it, and it's ironically, the lack of police has made it so these gangs have to try and curb the killing, because they don't want that either, because obviously you don't want to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the guys who are doing the illegal stuff are now actually trying to prevent illegal stuff, simply to keep people in their neighborhood from getting shot.
Yeah, because everyone has someone they care about.
Well, and so everyone has someone they care about, but even if you're doing illegal activities to make your money, it's bad for business when no one wants to come to your area to buy your drugs or run your guns or whatever it is you're doing. And obviously that would probably be the equivalent, because if you think about it, those gangs that police their neighborhood are in a way their own private organization.
Yeah.
That now control what is essentially their law enforcement, because law enforcement wants nothing to do with those areas. Mm-hmm. So now they are that, and people do die, and it's definitely corrupt in some ways.
But it seems to be working okay.
Because one guy can order bad things. Oh, sure.
And
just dandy, I'm sure.
I mean, the prevention, the police being here doesn't prevent people from dying either. And
true.
Sometimes some people that didn't deserve to die. But then if it's not, most of the time in those circumstances, there should be a fair trial, and there should be action taken against the police officer. That
I think that's the other thing we would stop seeing if it was privatized. We would start seeing a lot more people just doing what they want.
Yeah, brutality. Because I've got the law on my side.
One of my coworkers brought up the fact that I guess some people got taken hostage somewhere in the country recently, and when the police showed up, they just kind of gunned everyone down. I'm not 100% sure why or how that happened, but his argument for that was, this is why all citizens should be armed and police themselves.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
I thought of this in two ways. A, being, I think at the point you get taken a hostage, you didn't quite have your holster ready.
Yeah.
People with guns can be taken hostage. But also, once they were taken hostage, the other people who showed up to help them still killed them.
Yeah.
So it was it really wouldn't have stopped. It arguably, it might have stopped them getting taken hostage to begin with, or it wouldn't have changed jack shit, except now the people with hostages have more guns.
Yeah.
To say this would prevent this outcome isn't really a thing you can prove. But like, I feel like you would see that more often then, because who's stopping you from doing these bad things to people? You are the law.
Yeah.
And your boss just cares about money. And he doesn't have to worry about his money going away because everyone else wants the police around.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like sheriffs were corrupt in the Old West.
Yeah. So
like, they were the sheriff. They had the law.
So I think it is safe to say that, safety, when it comes to our safety, the government should be involved to make sure it's done uniformly around the country, and that there's not like separate rules for every part of every neighborhood, and then so to have that consistency and have that safety, that's why we're a United States. That's why we aren't just 50 separate countries, So
agreed.
So that's fine to have, and taxpayers, that's fine for them to pay for that. But then when you start getting into welfare, well, there is a private version of that's called charity, and a lot of people give to a lot of charities, and they make a lot of money. I think without the government regulation, though, a lot of that would be more corrupt. So, I think that's good for the government to be involved in making sure that charities, don't just launder all the money, that they actually give back, and that they use the money how they advertised that they would use it. So
you would need the government involved just to regulate.
Yeah. So the government should be there to regulate charities, but I don't think that taking the tax money and then giving that back to people as cash or as assistance for things should be the government's job,
That, or change it so so let's say unemployment. Like, you would put a certain amount of unemployment for each of your paychecks into unemployment, and then when you are unemployed, that is your savings. That is your unemployment money.
Yeah, and I know people don't actually save when they should, but is it the government's job to force people to save?
Well, no, I'm not saying that's forcing them to save. I'm saying that the more you work and the more money you make, the more secure you are when the job is no longer there. So a man who worked for 40 years, who is now unemployed, has 40 years worth of unemployment to fall on, and he earned it.
Yeah, but that's basically Social Security.
If they never use it, that's money in the bank for the U.S. that we can use for other things.
Yeah, so that's basically Social Security. Yeah, a little bit's taken from every paycheck, and then you have it keeps track of how much you contributed. Then by the end, when you retire,
I guess the reason I feel like it's different is everything you put into it is yours still. That's the reason I like it. And I guess you could make the argument, well, that's just the government forcing you to save money.
Yeah, it's just a savings account that's harder to access.
Yeah.
And what if it's a thing that happens that's not quite unemployment, but your car breaks down and you don't have the insurance to cover your own, you just have liability. So, you have to take it to the shop and it costs thousands of bucks. Well, you have thousands of bucks in your unemployment thing that the government's been taking, but you don't have access to that. If it was your own savings, though, you would have access to that. It's more infringement on privacy and freedom for, I don't know really how much gain. It seems like that's not really what the government should be for.
That's a interesting point. Yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about it. Either you'd have to, any way to reform it would still feel like what you're saying, where it's a forced savings account, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
The least I can think of.
I don't know. So there's an idea, though, and this is going to sound like I just pivoted and completely am contradicting everything I just said, but there is, so Andrew Yang has a thing.
Universal income?
the freedom dividend, the universal basic income, and it seems like a decent idea. I don't know about the value added tax or whatever that he was saying for how to pay for it. That seems like a little or it wasn't value added. It was like a wealth tax or something. I didn't look into that, but into the everyone gets $1,000 a month if they're not taking any kind of other welfare. So you have to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that would wean a lot of people off of welfare, because it's the biggest problem I have with the welfare system that's currently in place is it promotes bad behavior. So yeah, it helps people who made mistakes, honest mistakes, but it goes away once you start making the right choices. So it kind of incentivizes people to continue making those bad choices. You know, a single mother that doesn't have a man in the house, who is not married and has children, gets more from the government. So she's just gonna not marry. You know, if she's gonna have kids anyway, then you might as well not marry and have more money from the government coming in, and then also get child support from the husband who isn't present.
Ooh, I should bring this up with my fiance.
You know, like it's just so that's contributing, I think, a lot to how, you know, why if you look at statistics, there's such a lower amount of fathers in the household. When social fabric breaks down, it's harder to dig yourself out of that. And when the welfare promotes breaking that social fabric down even further, and says, well, if you're a single mother, you're going to get more money than if you marry the guy, then they're just not going to marry the guy. And I think those policies are contributing to that stat that's just really sad to see. The percentage of homes without fathers has like grown exponentially from, let's say, like the 70s. You know, it's growing,
fair,
and it's a lot higher now than it was then, and it's getting worse.
So I think that's also, though, because divorce and just having relationships that are not considered permanent has become far more common. And I actually heard someone put it a very interesting way. Divorce, it's not. We shouldn't be upset that more divorces happen nowadays, because a divorce isn't a happy marriage ending; it's a bad marriage ending.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely more to do. Like, it's not like we just have all these people out there getting pregnant and then no one contributing. Like, I that's not all of it. Like, because the same statistic gets affected by divorces, if that makes sense. Also, and I feel like this is very important to point out. So I actually was watching. This was a while ago. So I took some evolutionary psychology classes. And something that's really interesting is a lot of people who have come out to be very successful in the last like 20 to 30 years grew up in single parent households.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who are in the middle class nowadays came from single parent households, and not a small margin. So, and part of that was because, due to being raised in that environment, it actually made them stronger.
Okay.
And the only reason I know about this too is because there's I can't remember the name of it. It's something university on YouTube. It's clearly very like religious right wing in a lot of the things it says and teaches.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bringing up like these weird facts about how having a certain family environment was like, you know, this was like scientifically proving you to be more happy. And they brought on and this other YouTuber brought on a few like experts, one of which was an evolutionary psychologist, and he was bringing up like a lot of alternative, like I shouldn't say alternative facts because that makes it sound like it's an opinion. He was bringing up a lot of statistics that showed that there was no correlation between becoming from a single parent household. The only correlation between a single parent household and how well your life turned out actually seemed to be more or less poverty. He pretty much pointed out that poverty is the biggest problem when it comes to like problems, and that a lot of times poverty actually drives single parent households, because like you imagine some guy can't afford to have kids, so he just walks out on the kids.
Yeah.
Or a mom can't take care of the kids properly, so now they're foster kids. So like poverty drives these numbers far more than like needing to have a parent in the house.
Yeah,
like,
I think
it's a chicken and the egg scenario, and I think a lot of people don't understand where it starts.
Yeah, I think a better
So
a better view of it then, instead of having like, getting married or not when you have kids, it would be a decision of, do I take a second job or not when my current job has me just below the limit for this welfare that I'm getting. If I get the second job, then I'll go above the limit and I won't get the welfare anymore, and so I will lose, and net, I will have a net loss of money coming in because the new job isn't as much as I was getting from welfare. It's just a little extra. So like it's keeping people below like a certain amount. But with the universal basic income, you get the 1,000 whether or not, no matter what, no matter how much you make. And so then when so you will take the second job, you won't lose the benefits, the 1,000 a month, and you just will be able to pull yourself a little more, like, out of a giant like debt that you had, like for medical bills or something.
Yeah.
Like people are stuck in these situations and they can't get out of them because if they try a little harder, the welfare gets taken away and then they'll drop even further. So it's like replacing welfare with just a steady universal basic income seems like a better idea to me.
I could agree with that. I actually like the idea of the universal basic income. It would benefit more people, and I feel like we would see more progress as a result. So, however, one thing I would like to bring up is and I feel like America would benefit from this, and I know this is a controversial one nowadays, but it's happening in other countries, and their countries are not falling apart. And if you ask their citizens, they are not complaining about this. And these are what should be these are first world countries like us, and that's having health, being taken care of your health, be essentially part of your government structure at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the myths I've heard are definitely not accurate.
With the lack of the giant lines, and you have to pay if you want to actually get service, and the takes forever to get anything done.
So I've not only watched videos, but I've heard plenty of people, both famous and not famous, talk about the fact that they walk into a hospital, you get into it's St. Patrick's Day in the UK, you get into a bar fight, and so you have to go to the hospital because your face is all cut up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a 5-star treatment? No. You get put in the I got into a bar fight ward. And do you get primo treatment? No. But you also didn't just have to pay a couple $1,000s to have your face stitched up.
Mm-hmm.
And one big thing with our hospitals here in America, and this is a big difference, is if you think about our hospitals, and if you've ever been to one, I don't know if you have. I got to spend some time in them.
Mm-hmm.
But they are hotel rooms level of comfort. And if there was a big difference between their hospitals and ours, it's definitely comfort. When you go to the I got my face cut up in a bar fight ward, there's no TV, there's no radio. You're not there to have a good time. You're there to get fixed.
Yeah, so I could see that as an improvement. But what about waiting time?
Waiting time isn't that bad. They actually have a very good rate at getting people in and out, and part of that is just because they're just at a point where they've figured out how to just make the most efficient way of making a hospital work. I don't believe that our hospitals are necessarily designed to keep you sick so they can pump you to get you out as soon as possible. But I've been to the doctor, and I've had some that definitely were interested in getting me better, and I had other ones who literally just fucked around for hours instead of taking care of me. I had an ER visit once, and I had a seizure at work, and they just said, "Oh, you're dehydrated," and they said this 4 hours after taking me in. And we had a video of it, luckily, so I took it to my other doctor, and he said, "Oh yeah, you had a seizure," and he's like, "Did you sew this to them?" And I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Oh, they I don't know what they were thinking." They clearly just let me sit in a room for 4 hours. Then a doctor walks in and says, "You were dehydrated, go home." And Whack-Donald's, the place I work, got charged it was a pretty penny as far as workman's comp. Literally for the guy just to literally do nothing. If you had gone to a UK hospital, they would have been like, "Okay, this, that. Okay, looks like this happened. Let's fix this. Okay, go home. Because there's no incentive now to keep you waiting.
Yeah.
One of the myths I've heard of is like America is the reason we have good medical discoveries and fixing a lot of things. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. The European Union, for the amount of people working on research there, contribute the most percentage-wise to healthcare breakthroughs. So if but it's and they're well funded, and they have a good, and their countries obviously want citizens and healthy citizens, so it's in their best interest to fund these things.
Yeah.
America is more profitable for medical research, but that's because when you're in a place where you can charge whatever you want for a certain thing, and when you have a monopoly on a certain product, you're gonna make more money. So it's more profitable for a researcher to come to America to do research. But if that system were to change, actually, I should put it a different way. America is the last place where you can come to try and make a fortune on medical research. If that were to change, then suddenly, instead of focusing on money, you'd be focused on just getting results.
So you don't
making
think
things
that
better.
it would decrease in number? They would just go back to home and do whatever from their own comfort of their own home, and it'll still happen. It'll just be spread out and not for as much profit, and they'd still make just as many discoveries.
It would stay about the same. I really do think it would stay about the same. And like I said, they make plenty of discoveries in other countries.
Yeah.
It's very overblown how much we make in ours compared to other ones. They do contribute. To act like they don't contribute is definitely a falsehood. So I think the biggest thing that would change is it just, like, would going to the hospital be uncomfortable? Yes. But it's the difference between going to the Outback Steakhouse versus going to Arby's.
You picked Outback for the good one.
You get fed either way. One was more enjoyable while you were getting fed than the other.
What, Arby's?
But both. I was actually going to say Outback Steakhouse. I actually kind of like that place, but
Well,
the pick another restaurant you really like that's expensive. I don't know if you've gotten to go to one, but I would say that'd be the big difference. I'd say that'd be the biggest thing. It wouldn't be as comfortable anymore, but that would be about it. They don't have bad track records for taking care of their people, and I think that's what it ultimately comes down to. And I think keeping our citizens healthy would be a worthwhile expenditure. Also, the number one, I believe it's number 2 debt in America is medical debt. I believe it's first is student and then is medical. And considering how much, and that's like American debt, not like the country, like our government's debt. So in fact, the biggest giveaway on television as far as a charitable giveaway now is actually held by not Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, and they forgave a ridiculous amount of debt. It was millions of dollars, and it was literally just to prove that it was actually on an episode of people who buy and sell debt.
Oh.
And they wanted to see how easy it was to buy other people's debt, and it turned out it was incredibly easy. And then they forgave the debt. Essentially, they wiped those people's debts out.
Well, that's nice.
but the point is, like, there's a lot of medical debt out there, and it's things that, like, universal income would not solve. Having to go to hospital for a broken hip.
Yeah.
Like, if your hip is shattered, universal income would not get you out of debt. But
so,
what would get you out of debt
would just be a complete government takeover of the entire industry. There's no more insurance. It's just, this is healthcare. This is, you go to the doctor and you get fixed for free.
Yes. And I think that if you had to pay, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of a realistic number. Obviously, it should be based off of tax brackets, a percentage. But, like, if we put taxes towards that, again, we were discussing before the show, like, how much our GDP was last year. It was a pretty ridiculous number. Mm-hmm. Like, is it, like, maybe prioritize where some of that money's going. Also, a lot of our medical debt, part of the problem is here in America, we charge ridiculous amounts of money for things that make no sense. For example, like something, the same medical procedure in America is like anywhere from 10 to 100 times more expensive than it would be in the UK. And it's because they can get away with charging it. That's what it ultimately comes down to too, is there are rules about how much you can charge people for things in other countries, first world countries. But here in America, if a specialist doctor says fixing your shattered hip is going to cost you $100,000 and you have to go to another state to see another doctor, you're out of luck. And they can set the price. And that's the ultimate thing is it's a business at the end of the day. Running the hospital is a business.
But
and they have a monopoly on it.
The trade-off,
and they can charge whatever they want.
The trade-off that I've heard though for that is that if you've got a shattered hip, that guy is a little more busy in the UK, where it's going to be a specific amount and not whatever they decide on. And so a lot of people, when they have those kinds of medical stuff where they need a surgery, well, not for shattered hip, but maybe for some sort of other thing where they needed surgery, but it's not like urgent, but like you'd like it done. A lot of them would travel to the US and pay the amount so that they could just have it done, because it would have taken, they would have had to wait for a year for them to be able to get into surgery in their home country that has the medical paid for. So like and if that's just like, I don't see that as just being completely made up by the people who said that. Like where
so they aren't waiting a year for necessary surgeries. Like if it's life-threatening or you cannot function without this surgery, they give it to you there. It happens. But there's if you can afford, like the best I can put it is, if you can afford to come to the US and pay for the surgery, you're in a completely different social class.
Mm-hmm.
So more than likely, you had something that was uncomfortable, so you paid to come here and have it taken care of.
And so then, like, if that didn't exist, then if everything was universal and given, like, would we as taxpayers be paying for, all the like Botox and like cosmetic?
No, cosmetic would be 100% on you. And it's the same way over there. They don't pay for your Botox over there. The government pays for things when you need them. And the doctor obviously decides when you need them, but they're pretty good about like not just being like, if you have a broken toe, they'll be like, okay, we wrapped your foot up, go home. And it takes you 5 minutes. And it's actually gotten to the point over there where they don't bother going to the doctor for certain things that they know they don't need to. Whereas here, broken, like the same treatment is the same thing, but you're going to get charged an arm and a leg, and you're going to be at the doctor for 3 hours because of what's going on with that. Like you have all these other, it's a triage thing. There are other people at the ER more like with bigger problems than you. So we do have wait times for stupid little things here.
Yeah. I don't know. I think in general, I could be convinced otherwise, but where I stand is that a lot of the reason why things are so like crazy and expensive is because of all of the regulations that exist. And if it could be privatized and there could be competition between different hospitals and different urgent cares to drive the price down better, and that insurances and insurances couldn't be like, they would have to actually take those risks, and they're not just gonna be bailed out if something horrible happens. Like they're gonna, I don't know, the private industry I feel like would have a better handle on driving all the price down if we just pulled out most of the regulations about pricing. Like it's not gonna.
But the private industry has been in charge of the pricing, and it's only gone up.
Well, no, there's a lot of regulations in there, and I can't name them specifically, but that's like what, I don't know, maybe I feel like I do need to research a lot more. Like there's stuff that I don't know, But what I had
I know one thing is suing place doctors in like European countries is actually very hard. So one thing that drives up, I know, doctor prices is malpractice insurance. And but malpractice insurance for them over there is really nothing because they suing them for anything but the grossest incompetence is just, they don't really when you go to court and you're like this, you kind of have to prove that you're not just filing a lawsuit for the sake of trying to make some cheap money off of them. Whereas here, people threaten to sue each other all the time over the dumbest shit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's libel laws for doctors are also different. I know for a doctor who delivers babies in the U.S., half your paycheck goes to your insurance.
Jeez.
They make millions of dollars, but they pay millions in insurance. But if you think about it, that kind of makes sense. Here in America, people are sue happy. Then you take into account this person delivered your baby. Your baby, something little looks wrong with your baby, and suddenly you're suing that doctor. That's why they face the most amount of lawsuits.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So I think that's definitely part of it.
We've identified the problems, but it's going to take some convincing and before I am on board with the solutions that are proposed, which is kind of, extreme in just, giving over everything, the whole system to the government. That just seems a little extreme, but I think that whole conversation needs to happen in a different time and place. So just for now though, it seems like there could be something done there, and the way it is currently is not good. There are definite problems with it. Yeah. So we need to find a solution for that.
The debate is, I'm willing to, I accept that as a good stopping point.
So, but...
Sorry, this is probably one of our longest episodes.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so to kind of sum up, for social programs, I feel like the universal basic income is a better idea than the welfare, but I would prefer if everything were just left to charity. And then for the healthcare, I feel like it's overstepping some of the government's role to be messing with that as much as they already are, and then trying to even just take full control of it. I feel like that's a little too much for the government to be doing with it, but I could be convinced otherwise. So that's a kind of up in the air in my opinions right now. So
yeah,
but other than that, military, we probably spend too much on it, and there's a lot of kind of shady stuff that's been pointed out. But you kind of it's hard to that's the politician's job to root out that swamp. There's some swampiness in there, but it's worse other places. So they're not really focused right now on that. They've got some bigger fish to fry right now. So, but that's definitely something to work on, to make sure that all of the money that they're giving there actually is going to things that are benefiting us and protecting us, instead of frivolous things that don't end up working. It's just the government's role should be smaller than it is, but it's, I think a lot of it is I don't know. I'm talking in circles, so I think it's just call it quits. My opinion is clear from what I have said so far, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. So, yeah, I think we're a good stopping point. There was something I wanted to say about charities, but I don't remember what it was, so I'll probably bring it up in our current what we learned next week.
So yeah, that's a lot. We gotta look into it a lot. There's a lot of homework to do on that. It's a big topic, so I'm surprised we didn't get through much of it in the 2 hours we had. So,
this whole thing is about just civil little. Hey, how about this? We're not trying to It's not like we're trying to convince serious politicians of anything. This is just for fun.
Yeah. So maybe it would be a good idea to steer a little clearer of policies and government regulation in future topics. I don't know.
I'm cool about talking about them. Just
don't feel obligated to have like such hard homework and facts.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're here to have a good time and have everyone else listen and have a good time.
So
philosophy is its own fun thing. And you can bring up relative facts. And like I said, and through the things I said, I'm like, I'm not sure. I think it's this. Because I'm just trying to like talk about something. I'm not trying to, like, at the end of the day, I don't care if anyone decides to listen to me. I'm some guy on the internet.
Well, if you have an opinion at home, then you can email us at nothingspecialtypodcast@gmail.com, and we will. I will read every email and maybe even read them on the show if you're okay with that. And we take criticism. So if you've got any kind of suggestions for don't focus on so much of the facts, talk about philosophy more, then we'll do that. Or I like hashing out the facts. I like hearing about it from there. Then like, great, we'll do that more. It's if you have anything to say, then definitely email in. So nothingspecialtypodcast@gmail.com.
And I guess we'll read it.
Apart from that, we've also got a Twitter @nothingspecialty without a G. And then at Facebook, it's @nothingspecialty, the full thing. So then this episode's going to be up on Apple and Google and Stitcher and anywhere that accepts an RSS feed. You can find it all in the description and in the social media. It all links to itself. It's fancy that way. And then they're up on YouTube too in a playlist. So however you prefer to get the podcast, feel free and leave comments, like, subscribe, and email. Let us know what you think. So I guess until next time, we'll see ya.
See you later, everyone. Oh, they still can't hear me.